Hey people, this is my sassafras tree growing behind me. I hear they're trying to make them illegal too. But I remember about 50 years ago, my mama used to make me go to church and I hated it. I thought it was a total waste of time. But like the Christians say, God has a reason for everything. So I listened to this preacher and he was trying to explain what it meant when the son of Noah had went up into his tent. And he was trying to give explanation of what it meant to go up in the tent. And he ain't got a clue. He's a con man. Con man, that's the Hebrew word for the priest, the con man. But if you skip on up to the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau was a great hunter and Jacob dwelled in the tents. And so, you know what it means to dwell in the tent. If you're living in LA and you look outside your building, you see a bunch of people living in tents. What's going on there is prostitution and drugs. That's who dwells in the tent. And it plainly says it in the story of Jacob and Esau. But this is what this sassafras looks like. It'll have some leaves that look like 3 fingers, and some will have a single. And sometimes it'll have some that just look like a mitten. And this is what you make sassafras tea out of, root beer. And the Cajuns use it for gumbo fillet. The whole tree's edible. The leaf to the tip of the roots. Everything's edible. Not just edible, but very healthy. So I'm going to try to finish up this folder of why was James black and Jesus red with this video. I'm trying to finish this chapter here. And it looks like this in the original Hebrew. It finishes up. It's got 2 lines, and then it starts the last paragraph. And so their interpretation of this is, so grew the boys, and was Esau a man skillful a hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a man mild, dwelling in tents. This man makes his living out as a skillful hunter. And how does a mild man living in the tents make his living? And this explains what that means. And loved Isaac Esau because of the game he ate, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And so what this actually says is a vendal venarium, and this means plural, and vendal, the Germanic people from Vienna, a venarium. You ever eat some Wiener schnitzel? Wiener schnitzel. The name derives from Wien, meaning from Vienna. The Viennese style. Vienna is Austria's greatest city. One of the 9 states of Austria, and Austria's primate city, with just over 2 million inhabitants. Great ancient cathedrals, great buildings. Appears that they don't be living in tents there. Much ancient history. This appears to be copper roofing up here. When you put copper on your roof, it's a statement. It means we plan to be here a long time. If I put a copper roof on your house, it's got a fully 50-year warranty, and it's going to be there for hundreds of years. Probably be 100 years before you have to do anything to it. And so it sits on this great river. This is called the Wiener Way. Like the Milky Way, the way, is the river in the sky. The Milky, the King's Way, the King's in the sky. This is the Danube River, flows through it. It crosses all the way across. This is the Black Sea over here. From here you can drop down into the Med. And it goes from almost France over here. And so all these cities along this river would all be rich. In Vienna, right here in the middle of it. But they would have no problem shipping goods back and forth all the way across here. It's easier to take goods from worldwide and come in through the Med and go up in the Black Sea and up the river than it would to be put them on horseback and lug them through the forest. It's a lot easier to protect your merchandise on the boat than out in the forest where you have many, many pillagers hungry. So this is some old English poetry. Even though it's in English, it's still a little bit hard to understand because of the poets writing it. But the Vendo Venerum, plural of Venetian, German, Venetian, the ways, and this is usually a way as in a W, I-E reads the A and a Y. The way is the Milky Way. But with this I being followed by the O now, it's reading as a W-A-E-E-S. And it's ways as in to weigh it up, to think about something. In the Vendo Venerium, ways, W-A-Y-S, ways, thinks about ways. And the ways he docks, document, to write it up. The ways he doxidays, lackadaisical, a doxy, a daisy. The double S, the second one reading is the Y. A doxidaisy. And do, D-E-W, the do and the I-O reading is the E. A do if base, a bastum, B-A-Y-S-T-M. Bastum is women you kidnapped, the bastum, B-A-Y-S-T-M. A bastum is vassal. The A-E reads as a E-S. This is a V-E-S-E-L-I-M. And it's the same as the king and the kingdom in the Greek, the vassal and the vassaline. A vassal is somebody in your kingdom, and you give them a place to live, and they perform a service. And this service is the if of bastum. A bastum. That's what you do to a hooker. A bastum is a vassalum. And you get your place to stay. You stay in this tent, and you're getting basted. If a bastum. And if you don't believe it, just go ahead and read the next page. That's the first thing Isaac did. He brought Rebekah to Egypt and pimped her out. And that's where this word loved comes from. And the A-E, reads as the E-S. And a yes of. And love. And that's not love, that's screwing. Yesing. She's in there yesing. Oh yes. And a yes of its check. And so Isaac, is its check. And that was the first thing. God wanted to know, does Abraham really love me? Will he sacrifice his son? And that's where that word comes from. Let's check and see if he really loves me. And why yes of its check. To see if he really loves me. Add us a suck. A sucky. Sucky is the worldwide word for fuck. In all the whorehouses in the whole world, no matter where you go, sucky me. Why yes of its check. At us backwards, and then at us a sucky, and then backwards and forwards the dicks. A sucky dixit, prostitutes. A sucksy dixit in pie, in the mouth. But this is a play on the word. The poets mixing this word together, and it's a empire. A sucky dixit empire. This is a double I here with this being followed by another vav. The N-P-I-I, where. Where is that big city? The empire, the sucky dicks empire. And back, and the E-E-S, E-A is a E-E-S, and the backies, in the empire backies have it. And at, and then backwards of fours, BQ, back. And the O-I-O, reading O-I is a W, and the I-O this way is a E. the back whiffing, the butt smelling. And if this puts you in shock, it's because you don't understand that only men could read and write. This is what men write about. And so, Jacob and Rebecca always cooking up something, And wise, W-I-Z-D, wised, if bends it. And wised if bends it. Bends it is the cooking up, B-N-Z-I-T. The N and a T interchange. And wised if bends it. Why bosom in. And backwards and forwards, it says, E-D-E-T, it says, S-E-S, it says, duetta, two women, the vav followed by the A reads as a T-E, and you see this is the first time it comes up, it's her, when it's talking about Eve, E-V-A, and that's where your Egyptian Edda comes from, Edda, and it says, duetta, the two women up, O-I reads as a vav, a U-P, do 'em up. Do 'em up. That's not horns, those are legs. It's W-P, U-P, up, do 'em up. And said Esau to Jacob, feed me please with that red stew, is the Adam. But this red stew, the secret is in this tack here. It's the med, and the A-E reads as E-S, the metis had 'em. And so the red is actually coming from this word here, rose. And this all has multiple layers, and not just reads different ways, but has multiple layers. The rose, in ancient times, you would hang the red rose up, and it means everything that you see or hear here is secret. Under the code of the rose. You will die if you ever speak what you see here. It's secret. And vayam, from a rose tell. It means do not tell. And, back within, B-Q-W-E and F, within. And, you see Rebecca here too, You got your Becca and your Rebecca. And Wyam Rose tell a back within a lutin, O-I is a U, a lutin. A lutin not telling the name, the name, and don't tell nobody the rose tell, do not tell. Vyam, by the way, from rose tell, a back whiffin, a lutin name, the name in a metis, the meticid mead, M-E-A-D, mead is a wine cooked up with honey. It's real strong. The medicine meadum. These a key here. This I is reading as an even. It's followed by the O here. And these here, these a key. These here a fancy, would like, and a pants, the pantsy, and the I followed by the O again, a fancy lantern, L-N-C-N, a lantern, that's your sword, and a pantsy lantern for 'em, and would like to get my sword in your pants, a fancy lantern for 'em some, and Vav Aleph, is a T-E or a D-E, a didum, got done. Edom is another word for red, the red, Edom. And from rose tell a back within, alluding name in Metis had mead, these here, these a key, a fancy a fancy Lansing forum some. A fancy Lansing forum some. I would like to get some of that. Forum some didum. So would like to be there. And Vium, from a reckon, R-E-Q-B, reckon, to figure it up. And Vium, reckon, make receive 'em. The maker, the one that has it for sale, and what he's going to get for it to receive them, and why reckon, to figure out what it's worth. How about your birthright? And why reckon, make receive them. What you figure it's worth at, and so trick. And from reckon, the make receive them, at a trick insert, the trick of insert Cali, insert the black. And so the trick of insert the black, is the black and the red. Jacob's the black. Esau is the red. The red is the old writings, and the black is the new writings. And Viam, and from a rose weave, W and the E-N-E is the E-V-E. And the rose weave hats, weave fence. And the I-A-I-E reads as the A. And we vance all, and call the column what? Will me ease, backwards and forwards, E-Z-E, easily incur. To incur something is to take control of. When you're sick, you need to take control of that. You need incur. And then the O-E is a odal. It's an heir to the king, and it's read as a O-W-E. And this is where this word swear comes from. It's a vow now, is vow. And Viam, from a reckon. I reckon his vow, and his vowel-y, is by your word, vowel-y, sevum. Will you swear to me, a vowel-y, sevum? Wise volley, the double vav, the first one reading is a Y, volley, to pass it back and forth. A wise volley, who maker at, the maker, the one that owns it, have it to sell, who the maker at, a trick in cartouche, the cartouche, a trick in the cartouche, the seal where the king's name is going to go. We're going to put a trick in it. The new trick is it's going to have the black and the red writings all in one set of writings. The trick to reading. Sometimes you read this word backwards. Sometimes you read the next word backwards and forwards. In wise volley, who maker at a trick insert to lift in, L-E-F-B, to lift in. The trick insert to lift in. And if ventin lows will come. Lows is worldwide word for those people. And those people and will come. This is where the word Bethlehem, the vital come. If we have bread, they will come. The pantry, all the poor people, the poor women would go to the pantry to get their bread. And if a ventin, and let out the smell, those will come. And when's it adds 'em? When's it adds 'em? What you add to the pot to make it smell, to make those people, to make those will come. When's it adds 'em? Add some onions to the pot, and everybody will smell it cooking. When it adds 'em. And a call, the IA reading is a U. And a call who's it, vi, meaning how or who, and a call, how's it, and a call, who's it, who come, who lick, who buzz, who lick, who buzz, that's the bees, that's where the honey come from, that's how you make mead, and who come, who lick, who buzz, as that, D-E-T, as that, here, receive. To receive is when you had it and lost it and got it again. But here, receive is when you got it the first time. And here, receive, incur. So that went pretty smoothly. Y'all let me know, are you getting that? And I'm going to come over here and read this in the next video. And I've got two of them. And somebody had changed one a little bit with spot where that's at. But this is what it's talking about, in the cartouche. In the cartouche. The names in the cartouche. And they have dual meanings, black and red. And I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.